welcome back to the Clue Your Jets podcast. We're hosts Ben Blessington and Michael Nania. Michael, it's been a little bit. We've fallen off our regularly scheduled program. I'm going to take full ownership for this one. I've been pretty sick the last few weeks, and the podcast schedule's been all messed up. I do expect this to go back to normal next week, but it comes at a good time, Michael. We're at the bye. Jets 1-4. I mean, some good, some bad. Plenty to discuss today. And then after the bye, hopefully, like the Jets, we can get back on track and do what we expected to do at the outset of the season. So how you doing, Michael?
I'm doing pretty good, honestly. I still feel really good about this team. And I'm having fun with this bye week, just looking back on some film, kind of sitting back, taking everything in, and just analyzing it and enjoying this process. I mean, all right, that's too positive. That Falcons game sucked. That was awful. I need to do better than that, Robert Saleh. I'm disappointed in you. Not you. I'm disappointed in everybody. But all that other stuff still is true. I am enjoying sitting back and analyzing it.
We are recording this the Friday after the Falcons game. So everything is kind of, the dust has settled. This is officially a bye week podcast. This is probably coming out Saturday or Sunday. So this isn't, all the emotions of the first 5 weeks have settled. I will say, I don't understand. I see this sentiment a lot. The people who say, thank God it's a bye week. And the whole, obviously the Jets have caused so much heartache, but at this point it's our expectations are so low. I'm kind of bummed. I mean, it's boring. Even if the Jets suck, it's all right, at least get to watch Zach Wilson. I can see how the team's developing. It's a long bye week, but I don't think it could have come at a better time, especially for Zach Wilson, because it's he's experienced some good, obviously that Titans game. So his confidence isn't completely shattered for the entire week, but it comes at a time where it's okay, you played your first few games in the NFL. You've had some pretty bad ones, cough, cough, New England. You've had great ones like Titans, and you've had some up and down ones like that Carolina one. Obviously we have a big mailbag today, so that's what the priority of our podcast is going to be. But Michael, and I'm sure people will touch on this, but I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on Zach Wilson's first 5 weeks. It seems to me that he's the biggest thing that he's messing up on, which is something we didn't expect him. Because I think for the most part, he's playing about as what we thought he would play, outside of just missing all the easy plays. I mean, the easy throws, the easy completions, the screens, flat routes, dump offs, slants. Yeah, those, I think his stats look a lot better. And then you have the high ceiling throws that we've seen from him. And it's okay, this is kind of what we've expected. But because he's missed so many of those easy passes, I think his numbers look a lot worse. And some of his games have been a lot worse. What have been your thoughts on Zach Wilson's first 5 weeks?
Yeah, I really think we've seen a lot of the flashes that make him a potential top 5 to 10 franchise type quarterback. But like you said, it's the struggles with the easy stuff that I think have been the most surprising, because his accuracy was fantastic at BYU last year. So I feel like for the most part, you figured that he would make the easy throws and that the struggles would be, facing the pressure, reading the field, just all the mental stuff. And then also like I said, the pressure, because he did get really good protection at BYU and he played good when he did get pressured. But just dealing with the more consistent pressure in the NFL, reading the field, pre and post snap decision-making. But his overall profile has been quite different than I think I expected, because I feel like his decision-making hasn't been that bad for the most part. I feel like he's making the right reads, but there's just been hesitancy. There's been just the yips with his mechanics and his throwing motion, missing throws that he should make. There's been throws he's made late. There's been just a lot of that sort of stuff. But mentally, and that's why I feel like I still feel really good about him, is because I don't feel like he looks lost out there in terms of being able to read the defense. I just feel like he's really taking his time to acclimate and be able to get his mechanics down and be able to deliver confidently and smoothly and in rhythm and in time without overthinking it. So I still feel really good about his potential, but obviously the biggest thing is not necessarily for him to become a great quarterback by the end of this season, but you just want to see progress from game to game throughout the year and hopefully finish the season looking like a much better quarterback than he does now. Even if he's not fully there yet, you just want to see that progress and see some of those weaknesses that he has shown start to be ironed out as the season goes on. But I feel like the thing with Wilson, which I kind of said earlier, and I'm curious if you agree with me, is like I said, I just think that he has shown a sort of a different set of weaknesses than we expected, which is in some ways good and bad. So what do you think about some of the weaknesses that he's shown in terms of making those easy throws, And just like some of the screen passes in this Falcons game that he missed. So what are your thoughts on that? Is that more of a bad thing, the fact that he's struggling with some of the easier parts of the game, or do you think it's more of a positive because we know he can do this based on his college tape, and it is something that seems easier to fix?
It's tough because you kind of balance, like, you don't want to be too optimistic, too, fan friendly. Because if this is another team's quarterback, like if we were playing Zach Wilson and we saw some of the throws he missed, I think a lot of us would write him off as like, oh, this guy sucks or whatever. Obviously, you've thrown out like the Josh Allen example, which, let's be clear about this, Josh Allen was the anomaly, not the example. But it is a nice career trajectory. And when we did our BYU podcast, with Jeff, one of the things that he had said was, I kind of expect him to have a Josh Allen type rookie season, where I don't think he's going to come in immediately and light the world on fire. This is a guy who's been watching Zach Wilson since he was in high school. He's like, I think he is going to end up being one of the best quarterbacks in the league, but I think it's going to take him some time. And the thing that I've seen from Wilson the most, and I don't think this is too concerning yet. That would be the caveat. He just doesn't look comfortable. I mean, but that's kind of what you expect for a rookie. It's like this system is not like, he doesn't know it like the back of his hand, like he knew the BYU system, which is a big deal for quarterbacks. I mean, the thing I was thinking about, I was playing Madden the other day. When I get to the line, and obviously I'm no quarterback, when I get to the line in Madden, I'm holding the trigger and looking at the routes the entire time before I snap the ball. I was just thinking about how hard it would be mentally for a quarterback, forget reading coverages, just to visualize all the routes on every single play. That was just a quick sidebar, but I think that he just doesn't look comfortable. Like, he just, I think he knows the plays, but it's not like the back of his hand. He's kind of comfortable behind the offensive line at this point, but it's not a perfect deal. It seems like he's second guessing himself on some of those easy throws. He even said it himself that he kind of feels a little robotic when he's throwing it, like he's overthinking it. He just doesn't, he's not playing loose, like he's having fun backyard football like we saw at BYU. And maybe that was a bit of a product of, he was at BYU, which was it's not powerhouse, but it was a better team than a lot of the teams there, like Northern Alabama or something. He just hasn't reached that point. I mean, the NFL is just moving really fast. His receivers, he hasn't been able to necessarily trust them all yet. There's just so many things that I think is throwing off his comfort level, that if he can get to that point where you can see him get comfortable, like the Titans game, where he honestly didn't look that comfortable to me the majority of the game, until he hit that big, and like he was having an okay game, but like still the comfort level of missing some easy throws, kind of looking a little shaken. He hits that big throw to Keelan Cole. The offense gets in a rhythm. They get a touchdown. All of a sudden, he starts to establish rhythm, and then he seemed comfortable, and then he was letting it loose. And obviously, he missed that ball to Corey Davis at the end of regulation. But outside of that, it's like he looked comfortable. He looked in rhythm, and that little stuff that we're seeing him mess up, he wasn't messing up. The thing is the Jets have not established a rhythm at the beginning of games the entire season. And I think you were telling me this before the game. It's like every game kind of seems to have the same script, where it's like he faces an early 3rd and long. The Jets go 3 and out, or get 5 plays and go out on 3rd down. They get down by 7, and now Zach Wilson's trying to play hero ball. The Jets have had 7 plays in the entire first quarter. That might be being generous. I mean, like, they just haven't been able to get any sort of rhythm. So it's even hard to establish comfort in games. So I'm not at the point yet where I'm really that worried about him. I'm not. I still believe in him. I think that if this is an issue next year, hell, if this is still a consistent issue by the end of this year, I think criticism is warranted. I think this is something that's going to get better as the team gets more comfortable with the scheme. Zach gets more comfortable with the scheme. I think the offensive line play is going to improve, etc. I think you'll see him get improve. But if this is still an issue by the end of next year, I think or by the beginning of next year, I think that's definitely time to start worrying. I think that's,
I think honestly, even if it's still an issue at the end of this year, it's not necessarily, and obviously you can be worried to an extent, but I do think if he's still struggling with accuracy by the end of the season, I still think it's worth giving him the off season, because I feel like mechanics is something that is kind of difficult to fix within a season when you already have to scout the opponent every week. He's still trying to master the scheme, which, is, there are players rotating in and out because of injuries. LaFleur should be making changes based on what we've seen so far. So that's already hard enough in itself. So I feel like the offseason is more the time where mechanics will be changed and fixed and mastered. So I think that even if he's struggling with accuracy by the end of the season, not that it's a good thing or that you should excuse it. It's definitely something to be worried about to an extent, but I think that's something that you give him an off season to try and figure it out. And like you said, if still next year he's missing throws like this, absolutely, by all means, time to worry at that point. But I did want to talk about the Josh Allen comparison a little bit because I think there are a lot of similarities, but it also is different in a few ways. Because I think what makes Josh Allen such an anomaly, or a big part of it, is not just the leap he made from where he was in his rookie season to his third year, but it's just that coming in, his odds look so bad because he was very inaccurate in college. Even going back to high school, his accuracy was very bad. So Wilson doesn't have the same issue. He was very accurate in college. And if you want to go back to his high school career, he was good then too. So it's not as if he has
Have
the
you
same.
scouted the numbers on Zach Wilson's high school career?
I know I've looked at them at some point.
Oh my God.
I don't remember them right now though. But I mean, it's different because we've seen him be accurate. With Josh Allen, you didn't know that he could do that because he had never at any stage been an accurate quarterback. So it was a much different situation. It's just similar in the sense that what we're seeing earlier in the career, but I think there are a lot more examples than just Josh Allen in terms of quarterbacks who have started this way and gone on to play well, with your Peyton Manning, your Eli Manning, Matt Stafford. There are a lot of examples. And I think the Allen comparison is similar in some ways in the fact that you're coming from slightly weaker competition. It's a guy who has great physical arm talent. I believe they have Allen had the best combine velocity of any quarterback in the past 15 years, I believe. And then Wilson got tracked with a 60-mile-an-hour ball against the Patriots, I believe, matching Josh Allen's 60-mile-an-hour velocity, which led all quarterbacks in the combine. So, raw talent, weaker conference.
What throw was that?
I don't remember which one it was. I just remember I saw the tweet. I think it was from Matt, the EA Sports.
Wonder if it was the first. Wonder if it was the first interception.
Yeah, it might have been.
The way it hit Corey Davis' hands and flew up 10 feet in the air.
It might have been that, but physical tools, weaker conference, so it is similar in that way. But I think it's different because Allen needed to develop those skills. Wilson has the ability to be accurate. Right. We know that. He's just got to be able to figure out how to translate the way he did it in college to the NFL. Right now, he's, like you said, not comfortable, not playing free and smooth. And that's something that can come in time. Doesn't mean it will, but it can. It's not like Allen where he's got to totally overhaul his game. So we'll see what happens, but you definitely would like to see progress throughout the season.
All right, let's get into the mailbag. There's certainly going to be some more Zach Wilson questions in there, but we're going to open it up with a Michael Floor question from @the At what point does Michael Floor match the personnel he has to the play calling? I think, this is something you've raised a lot, is that the Jets are really trying to implement this 12 personnel, 1 running back, 2 tight end offense, run the football a ton, and play these, condensed formations when it's like, the Jets tight end group is probably the worst in the league. I mean, I can't really imagine there's a worse one. I guess the Vikings traded a 4th-round pick for Chris Herndon, so maybe they're in a worse shape. But Ryan Griffin, Tyler Kroft's okay, but not as a tight end number 1. Dan Brown and Trevin Wesco, if you count him, since he's the fullback. I mean, the Jets just don't have the personnel. And then you look at the receiver group, and the Jets don't have a top flight receiver group, but I would say they have a pretty deep receiver room, that you don't have to really worry as much if, 2 guys were to go down. It's like, okay, I'm okay with Keelan Cole seeing legitimate reps. Same with Elijah Moore, Jamison Crowder, obviously Davis. And it's like Mims, obviously, I'm sure there's going to be some Mims questions in here as well. What do you think there's going to reach a point where LaFleur will get away from his offensive scheme and try to mold it around the players? Because seems like we've been saying this since I've been a fan. Why doesn't the coaching staff, build his system around the players that he has? And it seems like an Adam Gase, and I'm not throwing Mike LaFleur under the bus because clearly they're trying to install a scheme that they're going to use long term. He does seem to be foregoing some of the. He does seem to be just using too many 2 tight end sets when the Jets, frankly, don't even have 1 tight end.
Yeah, I really do think, honestly, that LaFleur strikes me as a guy who's not going to change it that much and wants to stay true to this scheme. Because that's just the indication we've gotten so far. Even as receivers have come back and Tyler Kroft goes out, he's still running 12 personnel 40% of the time. So he just doesn't strike me as a guy who's going to change it. And that's going to hurt this year, and it's not a good thing. But, long term, if they can get a tight end after the season, if they could trade for one within the next couple of weeks, That'd be huge. And this can be a productive offense. But for now, it's going to hurt. And it's definitely not the greatest thing on his part to not be that adaptable. But at the same time, you could kind of see the reasoning in that, you're planning to have this combination long term with you, LaFleur, and Zach Wilson. So go ahead and install what you're trying to do long term, get them used to it instead of going back and forth. So I can see that logic, but I think he doesn't have to change the entire scheme. It's just lessen the 12 personnel. Like, we're not saying to change the entire structure of the offense. It's just, instead of doing it 40% of the time, do it 20% of the time. In certain situations where, maybe you'd come out on 3rd and 2 with a 2 tight end look and threaten to run the ball, just go with 11 personnel and just straight up throw the ball and don't really, think about running it. Just mix it up a little bit more. I think that's all that we want to see. We don't necessarily want him to change the overall scheme. It's just in some situations where you might go 12, just go to 11 a little bit more often. So that's really the thing with any tweak that you want to see in season. It's not necessarily about changing everything drastically. It's just do something 10% less. And that can, take you from being a team that uses 12 personnel, the third most as they are right now, to using it at a league average rate. So I think that there are situations where it doesn't have to be used, where they could play to their talent a little bit better with the 11 personnel. So that, I think, would be the realistic expectation. Let's get it down at least 10%.
Yeah, because there isn't any team, especially mid-season, maybe from season to season this happens, but mid-season, there's really no team that changes their entire offensive identity, from week to week. There are teams, and I think the Jets actually do this, but you look at San Francisco, they are clearly a 12 personnel team. Obviously, this is where LaFleur comes from. Clearly a 12 personnel team. They have their team identity, but what they're really good at is attacking what the defense doesn't do well. So they're able to mold their offense in that way of attacking certain things that a defense struggles with, but they're not going to come out in 10 personnel 50% of the game. I mean, that's just not what they do. I think the Jets have to, I think what LaFleur, and I think LaFleur has done that. I mean, almost to a fault at times. He'll come out trying to attack the weakness instead of trying to establish what this offense is trying to be, get Zach in a rhythm. I agree with you. I think just like bring the 2 tight end sets down. I do think they actually will make it move for a tight end. I don't like Ertz just got traded. That was never going to happen. This is an older veteran who wants to go to a contender, who wants a new contract. I think, an OJ Howard is the popular name. There are other guys, and we'll get to it in a second. But like those younger tight ends, just bring in somebody that you're comfortable with. Because Croft, I don't think he's amazing, but he's not horrible. I'm comfortable with him even being the second tight end. But tight end 1 with Ryan Griffin. And honestly, Ryan Griffin has been tight end 1 for a large part of the season as well. So this is just one of those examples where it's like, okay, look, they're clearly much better with Crowder on the field than they are with Ryan Griffin on the field. So I do expect LaFleur to make some changes there. And I think Joe Douglas might help him out and set a tight end his way. For Matt Bowles, 56_Mike, solve our run game struggles, please. I mean, Michael, neither you or I are NFL coaches, but you seem to, you have your analytics, obviously. You and I have both kind of watched all these games from that all 22 view behind the end zone. What really is the big issue in the running game? Because it does seem like they have moments where they look all right, particularly when Michael Carter's in the game, but just they haven't really been able to establish the run, I think, the way that you or I thought they could. Is that just a missing Mekhi Becton thing, or is this just a schematic thing, or rest of the entire offensive line? I mean, what has been the biggest culprit behind the Jets' struggles in the running game?
I think it goes back to the last question. I really think the tight ends have a lot to do with it. And Croft has been disappointing. He should be a good run blocker, but he hasn't been this season. But Ryan Griffin is just bad. And that it's been on his tape his whole career. So I feel like if they
would you rather have Kellen Davis or Ryan Griffin?
Let's go in blocking. I think Kellen Davis. Am I wrong?
Well, if it's so okay. Well, I don't think Ryan Griffin's really particularly good at anything anymore. I mean, I think 2019 he was an okay receiver, but he's good since the injury. He's not the same. So yeah, I mean, I think Kellen Davis. I'd take Jeff Cumberland.
Yeah. So
Ben Hartsock.
What about Eric Tomlinson? Overall package, would you take Tomlinson or Ryan Griffin?
That's a tough one. I guess Tomlinson. At least he has a cool aesthetic.
Yeah. So, I mean, I really think the tight ends have a lot to do with it. I feel like part of the benefit of playing more 11 personnel is not just, better receiver talent. It's spreading out the formation a little bit more, run against some more lighter boxes. because they don't have the blocking talent to run against these, put out these condensed formations and run against them with the defense squeezed inside like that because the tight ends can't block anybody. So I feel like that's a big part of it. Becton has definitely been a huge loss because George Fant has been great in pass protection. That's been a pleasant surprise. He's been awesome in that facet of the game, but the run game, he's definitely been the opposite of that. I think there hasn't been a ton of push from him. That's been their worst rushing gap to the outside left in terms of yardage,
which was their best last year, right?
Which was their best last year. So they definitely missed Becton in the run game. So I think it starts with losing Becton and the two tight ends. And then also, we all know Greg Van Roten has been killing plays this season. So I think the seeds of a good run game are there. There are a lot of plays that are a lot of different guys with good blocks. I think McGovern's doing better. Vera Tucker's been great. Moses has been run blocking well, but all it takes is one guy to blow up a run play. And that camaraderie just hasn't been there. There have been a lot of run plays where just one guy botches his block, and that is the defender who blows up the play. So as the season goes on, they build some more chemistry. Becton comes back. I could see the blocking improving, and Tyler Croft getting back up to his usual blocking level would be huge as well. So there is a potential for this run game to turn around. Just look at the New England game when they were creating so much push consistently against that defensive line. So the potential is there right now. It's just not all clicking at once.
So you mentioned Connor McGovern. How happy are you with the way he's played? Is he playing at a level? I mean, obviously he didn't start the season particularly good week one, but since then, is he playing at a level where you would be comfortable with him coming back? Or do you think he's just playing at a stopgap level right now and the Jets need to look to upgrade next year? It's a little early for that. It's a little early for that conversation. I'm just saying based off what you've seen so far.
I'm going to say the level he's at right now, I would explore upgrades because, next year his contract becomes escapable. You could cut him and save 9 million, only about a little bit over $1 million in dead cap. So I think next year it's sort of like, the situation they had with their guard, or kind of with George Fant this year, where it was like, we can look for an upgrade, and if we find one, great. If not, he can come back. He did come back. I would look for it. If you can get, everyone talks about Linderbaum from Iowa. If you can get a guy like that, great. If you can sign a good free agent, great. But if you don't and he has to come back, I think I would roll with him. I think that's the level he's playing at right now, but not necessarily the level where I wouldn't look for an upgrade.
It does go to show how much a guard impacts a center's performance because the way Vera Tucker's been playing, obviously he's pretty much been getting better every single week. It seems like more has come off McGovern's plate and he's been able to, his own performance has improved because he doesn't have to worry as much about the left side. Obviously he has to worry a lot about the right side and his own responsibilities, but it is kind of, he's not a great player, but it's like if you put a solid right guard next to him, does he become a solid player, a good player? I mean, he's certainly playing at an okay level the last few weeks, but I think that's something to kind of watch. I agree. I think he's in that George Fant spot where I think it wouldn't surprise me if he's on the roster next year, even though most people kind of just automatically assume he's going to get released. I think unless the Jets sign a big free agent center, I think he's returning. And even if they draft somebody, they might just keep him for depth like they did with Fant this year. All right, from @Pray for Jack, most important position to target. Well, this is another looking forward question. Most important position to target in free agency and in the draft, just one from each. I guess that's a two-part question. I mean, tight end, absolutely. I think you could put tight end for both of these because I think the way the Jets are trying to run their offense, they need an entirely new tight end room. I mean, I wouldn't be mad if they had 3 new tight ends next year. Maybe Croft can return and 2 new ones. Hell, I mean, Wesco's pretty hit or miss. Maybe he's acceptable, but you could even throw a fullback in there. Right? I mean, the fabric of this offense is really in that tight end fullback position and having to have a lot of them and good ones, good versatile pieces. So it's like, I think the Jets are really going to go hard after the tight end next year. After that, Michael, what do you think?
Yeah, so I guess we have to go for one for each, and we're doing a different one. I'm looking at the free agent tight ends, and it's not awesome. Dallas Goedert is, I think, a good target. He has that receiving upside, is a good blocker, but would I make him my prime free agent target over maybe a top right guard or a top safety or linebacker? I don't know. And other than Goddard, there's Mike Gesicki, David Njoku, Dalton Schultz. Those are the top tight ends in terms of receiving yards this season that are free agents next year. So it's not great. Obviously, any of those guys would be good, but I think I would put guard first in free agency just to ensure that, because
Right.
they're getting close to the point where they could get the whole offensive line shored up. You got your left guard, you got your left tackle. I think in McGovern, you have at least an average guy if he can keep playing the way he is. Right tackle, you have two solid options the way things are looking. Well, Moses will be a free agent, but you at least have Fant. So
I
I
think they
think,
bring back Moses. I mean, so far.
yeah, I think
This
he's
is way too early
deserving
for these
that.
discussions, but
Yeah, it is. But but I guess I would say right guard for free agency and tight end in the draft.
all right, I like it. Yeah, I mean, I no qualms with that
That's
one.
not knowing too much about the prospects yet.
Right.
But and that's interchangeable. But right guard, tight end, definitely the top two needs for me right now.
Yeah, easily. And you would think that corner would be up there, but the way corner's playing, I mean, I still think they probably end up adding one, probably maybe in the draft again. Maybe just keep going back to the well for young guys at corner. But the way Bryce Hall's been playing, the way Michael Carter II has been playing, you almost look at it as like, okay, two of the third three starters. I mean, like again, this has been 5 weeks, but it's like you're pretty confident in two of those three. And then we'll see how Eccles develops, Guidry develops, Pinnock, whatever. But corner really isn't as big of an issue. I think safety is definitely going to be a need for the Jets next year. I mean, they're just rotating a bunch of bodies in there. You hope to see Ashton Davis, really kind of cement himself at either one of those positions. And then I would be shocked if Marcus May is here next year. So then it's like they're going to need a safety. They'll probably draft another corner. We'll see what they do at linebacker. But the biggest issues are clearly in that offensive line and tight end spot, because they got to get the run game going if they want the offense to work at all. From at Andrew Golden _17, you can only keep one Michael Carter. Who are you taking? I mean, just on principle, the corner. I mean, he's been probably the Jets' best rookie, and he's a corner, which is theoretically is more valuable than a running back. But I will say, running back Michael Carter has been pretty impressive to me. I do really think that he's going to be a legitimately good every down back for the Jets. I mean, it's a little optimistic, and maybe the numbers don't back it up yet, but just watching the way he runs differently than other backs we've had here. His vision looks better outside of that one screenplay against the Falcons where it looked like he could have gotten 20 yards and so they got 5. But the biggest thing is, and you kind of were talking about this with Michael P. Ryan over the offseason last year, which was, you were sharing clips of P. Ryan getting tackled, and I know people were saying, well, what's he supposed to do there? I mean, obviously there's just a guy there. He's going to bring him down, whatever. But I think what makes a running back in the NFL is that, yeah, pretty much anybody you sign off the street, I mean, unless they're horrific, they can see the blocks and they can get the yards. What separates the Jags from the good running backs is, well, what do they do after contact? I mean, how many tackles can they break? And Carter seems like a guy who doesn't often get brought down by the first guy who makes contact with him. So I think that separates him as a guy I'm pretty optimistic about. But just based off, they're both playing really well. Corner's more valuable than running back. I'll take the corner. What about you?
Yeah, this is like picking a favorite kid because these two guys have both been so good, and I think that they will be building blocks. But I agree with you. I'll go with Michael Carter II. I think he has been more impactful this season, and corner is more valuable and harder to find. So I would go with him, but that's no slight on Michael Carter at all. And to your point about just elusiveness and after contact, that's really what's most impressive, because with Pirine, like, he just wasn't really adding anything. And obviously the blocking wasn't great last year, but that's kind of what running backs get paid to do, pick up more yards than what is blocked for them. And Pirine wasn't doing that. He broke very few tackles. And it's hard to ever look at a single play and be like, oh, you should have broken that tackle, because you never should break a tackle. It's what separates the great ones from the okay ones is that they make those special plays where they get more than what they should very often, while other running backs just get the yards, get tackled pretty consistently. So, and the numbers on the elusiveness for Michael Carter are really good. He's one of the top running backs in the league in terms of missed tackles forced per carry. And Michael Carter actually through 3 games this year had forced 7 missed tackles. That's how many P. Ryan had all of last season. So, and Carter already has 11 through 5 games. So his elusiveness has been very good, and I think he's going to be a good player. And then Carter II has been tackling well, fulfilling his role, coverage, not botching assignments. Other than the Falcons game, he did get beat a couple times. Most of the corners did. That wasn't that unit's. That was probably the worst game for that unit. But between these two guys, I'd probably take the harder position to find and arguably more valuable one.
Another interesting hypothetical this time from Scott Metz Cuddy. If you could add any player to the Jets, excluding QB or edge, which is a big caveat, from any team in the NFL, who would you pick? To me, I think the two that immediately jump out because edge or quarterback are off the table. I think of George Kittle and I think of Quentin Nelson, which I think,
Oh my,
but I'm thinking of the immediate
you
needs for
read
the
my
Jets.
mind.
But I know we're simpatico, Michael. But those are the immediate needs for the Jets. So I'm trying to think, okay, like, how much would the offense change if they had a game breaking receiver? Well, you could go Travis Kelce, Michael. There's plenty of other good tight ends out there.
Yeah.
How much different would this offense look if they had a game changing receiver or, maybe on the shutdown corner or, something else like along those lines. But I really think that if they had a right now, if they had a Quentin Nelson or they had a Kittle, I think the offense looks light years ahead of where it is right now because just the guard position and the tight end position are just holding back this offense in a major way. If I had to go something outside of that, I would probably go with a top tier receiver. I'll let you debate that one.
Yeah, that's what immediately came to mind. Just Quentin Nelson, George Kittle. Let's go to work. Kittle would be my tight end pick because of the dual threat blocking and pass catching, and just his experience in the scheme. That's obvious, but I'll go with a unique choice and a couple positions that aren't at the obvious needs. How about Jalen Ramsey and Fred Warner? I like that defense.
Well, you can only go one. So we're breaking the rule here by going by two. But
wait, why was I thinking of two? Okay,
because I said
the question. It said QB or edge, so I was thinking.
I messed you up. You have to choose one.
One player. How about Jalen Ramsey and Bryce Hall? That would be a good duo.
That would be pretty good. But to me, the offense is what's holding back this team. So I would go.
Yeah, if I had to choose one, I'd probably go with Kittle.
I think I go Quentin Nelson because I just think it's kind of hard to find a guard that elite. I mean, maybe Kittle. Kittle's such a game changer. I don't know. Okay, maybe Kittle. I don't know. I'm torn there. You can't go wrong with either of them. You're getting an elite generational guard that you're going to have on your team for the next 10 years, or you get an elite generational tight end you're going to have on your team for the next 10 years. So which one would you rather have to, would you rather have to find a great tight end or a great guard? I don't know. Make your pick there. But I guess I'll go with Kittle there. It's a fun one. All right. Two from the GOAT, the legend, the best question submitter. I think he submitted one for every single mailbag we've ever done, but sports_fiend, E with a 3. Based on their current stats and trajectory, which defensive player do you think will finish the season with a higher or with a bigger jump in their PFF grade compared to last season, JFM or Bryce Hall, and why? Bryce Hall for me. I mean, you probably have the analytics, but I think it's probably safe to say that JFM already had a pretty high PFF grade last year, and I'm sure Hall had a good one as well, but I just think ignoring the PFF grade, who's made the bigger jump, to me, it's Bryce Hall, so I'll go with him as my answer.
Yeah, I agree because Franklin Myers is coming off of a pretty great season last year already, whereas Hall, I think, was average last year when he played, which is a great floor for a rookie corner. And he's built upon that and become, to this point, I think you can legitimately say a very good starting cornerback. So I think Hall, between these two guys, Hall definitely is the player with the biggest leap and maybe the biggest leap on the entire team.
Yeah, and the biggest thing with Hall was, I mean, people forget he was a guy looked at as a potential second or third round pick. It was just that, I mean, at one point a first round pick, but it's like the injuries brought him down. And, I think Joe Douglas, you have to give him a lot of credit. The Jets consistently for a decade, it's not necessarily been, I mean, they've been a bad drafting team, but they've had drafts where they've hit on their first round pick, or maybe maybe they hit on their second round pick. 2017 an example where it's like, okay, they got Jamal Adams and Marcus May, two safeties, but two good players. I mean, okay, that's a win, but they weren't able to do anything the rest of the draft, and particularly on day 3. And I think that was the thing I really wanted to see out of Joe Douglas, because I think people have these unrealistic expectations of drafts where you're going to hit on every player. It's really like, can you get 3 guys, 4 guys? I mean, like, that's a great, if you can get 4 guys, that's an amazing draft. And particularly, can you get anybody in day 3? Can you find a diamond in the rough? And I think Joe Douglas, in at least 2 of his drafts, ignoring all the other guys he's picked, because there's potential for more, but you look at Bryce Hall and Michael Carter II, those are 2 day 3 steals. And I think you have to give him credit there. So for me, Bryce Hall is a guy that was severely underrated because of the injury, and I think he's now catching up to where he deserved, because he's a great fit in this defense, and you're right, he's having a fantastic season. Another one for sports_fiend. We were just talking about adding a tight end and a guard, Michael. Do you think the Jets will be in the market for a tight end or an interior offensive lineman by the trade deadline? OJ Howard and Laurent Duvernay Tardif have been mentioned on the Jets' radar. That's a guy from the Chiefs, right?
Yeah.
Okay, what trade packages would you both put together for each player? I'm not going to pretend to know enough about Laurent. But for OJ Howard, I mean, we were just speaking about day 3 picks. I think, look, I mean, they have Gronkowski and Brait, and I think he's entering. Yeah, he's in a contract year. He's done pretty much nothing up until Thursday Night Football against the Eagles. I don't think OJ Howard's worth more. I mean, look, what Zach Ertz just went for basically a fifth. So
Yeah, a fifth and a guy who was picked in the 6th round this year.
I think OJ Howard for a 6 kind of makes sense. I mean, then it's the question of, do you include the Marcus May in these type of talks? But I think I think OJ Howard for a 6 makes a lot of sense. The Jets have that 1-6 that's projected to be towards the end of the round. I'm trying to remember who it's from. From one of those deals they made at the trade deadline. I think it's the Bucs 6th from the McClendon deal. I think they have that 6. They have a 6th is what I'm trying to say. I think you can move that for OJ Howard and get somebody to immediately help Zach Wilson out now. And look, if he succeeds, establishes any sort of chemistry, you can bring him back next year. I don't know enough about Laurent to come up with a trade package. Mike, what are your thoughts on these? Are there any other guys that make any sense to you?
I think, like you said, a 6th and maybe even a 5th for Howard would be worthwhile, just to get a guy who at least has some dynamic ability as a receiver in terms of route running, red zone threat after the catch. I think that would definitely be worthwhile. And then in terms of LDT with the Chiefs, I think he's a guy that makes a lot of sense. I brought him up in an article today. The Chiefs have a ton of offensive line depth. They have 4 guys who were starters last year on their backup line, and he's one of them. He did not start last year, but he opted out last year. The year before that, when they won the Super Bowl, he was their starting right guard. So they have a lot of depth in their offensive line. He's an expiring contract. So if they can trade him for some compensation, I think it makes sense for them. And he's a 30-year-old guy, so I think that's about prime age for an offensive lineman. Their careers kind of usually go deeper into their 30s than most other positions. He's been a good pass protecting right guard for the Chiefs since he was drafted. So I think he could be an upgrade, and it's a team that's in a position where I think trading him makes sense. So maybe 4th round pick or 5th round pick. And actually, I wrote another article about Marcus May and potential trade destinations for him. I think the Chiefs make a lot of sense because they've had awful safety play this year. Their defense has been the worst in the league. And I think Marcus May makes sense for them. So maybe they can include LDT in the return package for Marcus May. So I think that is a worthwhile guy to look at to improve the offensive line.
All right, from at Say My Nameth, how do you feel about this idea? Bringing Josh McCown as backup quarterback, bringing Chad Pennington as QB coach, bringing Mike Shanahan as offensive advisor. I think it just fix the team with that. And then what you can do is you can go ahead and turn off your Xbox. Well, look, I love the name. This question, okay, I'll handle it seriously. Josh McCown, I actually don't hate that idea, but it would have had to have been done at the beginning of training camp. But I think he's coaching high school football, so it's like so teams are waiting to see, when the season's over, maybe bring him in. I think having a veteran backup, like we talked about in this podcast, how many times, I think it would have been helpful for Zach, especially the first 5 weeks. You can kind of see having a guy to go back to, a veteran, a guy who's been there before. I just think about, like, if I was in Zach Wilson's position, that would be helpful to me. And so I think McCown is the perfect guy for that. But to me, I think that would have had to have happened at the beginning of training camp or something. But hey, maybe when the high school football season's over, maybe they bring him in. That's the most realistic out of the 3. Pennington, I don't see coming back to coach at all. And I think we just like him as QB coach because obviously he was a Jets quarterback, but I think there's probably more qualified guys out there. And I don't think Pennington wants to do it. I haven't seen anything that's made me think he wants to coach in the NFL. And bringing in Mike Shanahan as an offensive advisor. Look, I actually don't hate that because he is kind of the founder of this kind of style of offense in a way. This is the Shanahan tree. Obviously, Kyle Shanahan's popularized in the modern sense of the word, but this is Mike Shanahan's, offense. I don't hate that, but first of all, he's 70. I think he's probably retired. I don't think if he was going to go back, why wouldn't he want to go back to coach with his son in San Francisco? I don't really see that happening. But, I don't hate that idea as well. I just think they already did bring in, who did they just bring? Why am I spacing on his name? At the beginning of the season to replace Greg Knapp. You got his name on the top of your head?
Kavanaugh?
Yeah, thank you, Kavanaugh. they already kind of did bring in somebody as an offensive advisor. I don't hate Mike Shanahan and I don't hate Josh McCown, but I just don't think at this point in the season that that's happening. And then Chad Pennington, I think that's mostly nostalgia. Michael, anything to add, or should I just move on?
I think you actually gave a really good explanation for all those guys. So I don't have anything to add.
For Matt Demetrios, 800, would you rather get blindsided by John Connor on a kickoff return or relive week 17 of 2015 every season for the next 5 years? Well, if we're reliving that entire 2015 season and then getting our hearts broken in week 17, I mean, that would be better than the last 5 years, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I would probably take that one because I guess it depends on the nature in which you're getting hit blindside by John Connor, because I think there is legitimate possibility of death in that scenario. So I wouldn't want to miss all Jet seasons for the future. I could suffer through 5 2015s and suffer in quotes because it's mostly fun. I mean, they went 10-6.
Yeah, is it better to just be bad the entire time or to be good enough for them to break your heart?
It depends on the hit from John Connor. If it's just like, I know it's coming, he's going to go easy on me, then I'll take the hit. But
we're
like,
talking violent John Connor.
If I'm just walking down the street and then he comes in his uniform, then I don't. That's pretty.
It's
dangerous.
on a kickoff return though, so you're in pads.
I'll take the hit.
Yeah, I'll take the hit too. I'll roll the dice here and see what Bob Saleh and Zach Wilson can do over the next 5 years. From Trey B. Trouble, how does a defensive player in the line get called for holding, and why is Shepard still on this team? I don't think I can remember ever seeing that call before. I mean, obviously we've watched at this point hundreds of games, so I'm sure it's happened. But that happened twice to the Jets in one game. We watched both of them, but before recording this podcast. We'll go back to the first one on Shepard because we kind of disagree a little bit on it. Second one in Quentin Williams, I literally didn't see a single thing. I couldn't tell you what the penalty was. It was ridiculous. I mean, they scored on it. It was technically it was the touchdown that kind of put it out of reach for the Jets, but that one made no sense to me.
Yeah, I have no idea what it was. The flag came in at the end of the play, like right about as the ball went across the goal line. Quinnen was just in the mess. I didn't see anything. I legitimately did not see anything on that play that warranted a penalty. So I don't know for that.
The first one, you kind of are trying to defend the refs here. I don't agree with this one at all either. The first one's essentially, all right, Shepard's in the 3 tech. The left tackle kind of goes and sweeps his legs. So he's kind of a chop block. He's falling down and he grabs the left guard. And the left guard's also blocking him and he kind of just pulls the left guard down with him. But it was it wasn't honestly malicious. It kind of looked like he was just trying to grab the left guard to not fall over. That one, to me, it's like that happens every single game. I don't ever see it called. I think they're both weak. I think defensive holding really needs to be like, I'm trying to even on a screen pass, maybe just tackling the offensive line. Like I don't even defensive holding on a defensive lineman on a running play. It just seems kind of like the refs are trying to make themselves part of the game because on either of those, I really didn't see anything that deserved to be called.
Yeah, for me on the second one, I just could see, the first one on Shepard. I just see more than on the Quinnen play where I just don't know what was going on. Like I could see the justification because, like you said, he was getting tripped and he kind of grabbed the left guard's outside shoulder and yanked him down sort of by the jersey before he could get out. It
wasn't like he yanked and he just kind of togged on him. Like he didn't really even. Did he even hit the ground?
I kind of just pulled him. I think he did pull him down. But I agree with you. It's the type of contact that happens in pretty much every play. I don't think it was egregious enough for it to be called, but I can sort of see the justification. Still a pretty weak call. All
right, from Boap01,
actually before this next question, this came to mind just with the last hypothetical in terms of the John Connor thing. Just reminded me of this. I'm curious what you would take. So, and this is just sort of a question that I've thought of before. So, would you take a guaranteed 1 Jets Super Bowl in exchange for there's stipulations.
Okay,
so it's just guaranteed 1 Jets Super Bowl. That's it. They're not going to win more than 1 for the rest of your life. But it's not that you don't know when it's going to happen. You make this decision and then your memory gets erased. So the one's going to come at any point in your lifetime. You will see it. You're not going to die before it happens. You're going to get 1 Super Bowl. But that's it. And obviously it wouldn't. And the reason for that is because it wouldn't be fun if you knew that was going to happen. Then that would kind of defeat the purpose of it. So your memory gets erased. So 1 Super Bowl or take a chance, see what they can do.
One Super Bowl.
You think so?
Yeah, no hesitation on that one. I mean, my dad's been waiting like damn near 50 years. What am I saying? Over 50 years for them to win a Super Bowl. Because he was a kid when they won Super Bowl III, so he kind of remembers it, but he wasn't really invested, I guess I should say. And, my biggest, I want to watch them win a Super Bowl with my dad. I mean, like, so it would be pretty sad to me if I lived my entire life and the Jets never won one. That is honestly a big fear of mine, is dying before I ever see the Jets win it. So I know, look at my fear. It's just, I mean, hey, I have a podcast on them. Like, I need that moment. I mean, once they win it, I can die, honestly. I mean, hopefully.
I think I could change this up a little bit to make it more balanced. So let's say in the event that they win a Super Bowl.
What do you mean?
I'm changing the question.
Well, the other one, there's potential that they could go in a dynasty. I mean, like, to me, once they win the one, every other season after, honestly, it will always be fun and important. But like, once they get that one that we've been starving for, they won't matter as much. I mean, like, it will always still matter to me. But once they just get that one, that monkey off your back of like, I saw it with my own eyes. I'll have that thought of like, okay, God, you can take me now. Like, it's whatever happens, I can die now. And it's like this ensuing seasons might still be fun. They just might not win a Super Bowl. But like, I'll be content with that. As long as I get that one Super Bowl, that one moment, I'll be happy. I think the question's balanced, because I think other people would say, well, maybe they can win 5 Super Bowls. Like, I'm not getting greedy here.
So the extra stipulation I was going to add is, let's say in the event that they win that one Super Bowl, they never make the playoffs in any other season. Would you still take that?
Do I know? Oh, when I'm making the decision, I know that, though. And then my memory gets erased?
Yeah.
Yes. I'm pretty sure I would sell my soul for that one Super Bowl. There's a question coming up later that I think.
Well, I think Joe Namath already did that.
Yeah. Well, okay.
He sold the soul of the Jets to win the Super Bowl.
I know. But it's been 50 years. Maybe the curse is worn off. But
I would probably take my chance. And
no, I just want that one Super Bowl. I just want the one Super Bowl. That's all I care about. I mean, like, obviously, I would love for them to go have a dynasty while I'm alive or whatever, and be able to be one of those fan bases.
But what if they won it next year and you never saw a Jets playoff appearance again?
It wouldn't matter to me, because
for decades
I would have, because I could just rewatch that one Super Bowl and have that moment. It wouldn't matter. That one moment is like literally all I care about when it comes to the Jets. Once they get that, everything else is frosting.
Yeah, I agree. I think you might be right.
All right. Did I ask this one? I don't think I did. From @Boap01, does Greg Van Roten know how bad he is? Michael and I were talking about what it would be like to be a player in the film review on Monday, and they just consistently are just watch. Like, if you're Greg Van Roten and they're just reviewing the offense, and it's just play after play of you messing up. I mean, like, how do they do it in front of the entire team, or is it in their own meeting rooms? I've always been kind of curious about that dynamic, the post-game film study, especially after a loss. Because if I'm Greg Van Roten, I'm sitting there and I'd be like, oh, okay, I lost that rep. Oh, okay, I lost that rep. Nope, okay, holding in that rep. I mean, it would just be a shit show after. I mean, I'm sorry, Greg. You had your prime, but and also I'll give Greg a little olive branch here. There's still time to turn it around. I think he's not as bad maybe as people think he is. I'm not saying he's good, but last year he was pretty bad to open up the season, and then he turned it around a little bit.
Yeah,
if you can get some competency out of Greg Van Roten. Also, it is important to remember Van Roten is a Jets fan, so he did grow up a Jets fan. So I do have some sort of sympathy towards him. So I'm hoping Greg Van Roten turns it around, but thus far he has really hindered this Jets offense. So the Jets fan stuff goes out the window.
This is a really interesting question, actually, because I do wonder how honest the players are with themselves about how good or bad they are, because we as fans are like so numeric with it. Like, we have stats and numbers, like this guy is this many pressures bad, this guy is this many receiving yards good. Like, are they aware of their stats and rankings?
Well, there was that thing with Connor McGovern a few weeks ago where he had because there was this viral screenshot, I think it was against the Broncos, where there were 2 guys basically just running in the A gap, and he was just looking forward and not blocking either of them, if I remember correctly. I think that's what it was. It was something along those lines where he was just like blatant. It was. And then he DM'd some fan who was basically like, you don't know what you're talking about. This is whatever. And like, it was kind of a nasty DM, but I get it. I mean, he was facing a lot of criticism. I think center is one of those positions that is kind of harder to evaluate because it actually is very much assignment based.
Yeah.
Whereas like guard or tackle, I mean, obviously there are assignments, but it is very much one-on-one. Did you win your rep? Whereas center, you're playing more of like a, you know, you're helping out a lot more. You're playing, I mean, obviously in the zone system, you're playing one side, you have different responsibilities. So I think I think in order to be a professional athlete, you have to be kind of oblivious or you have to just be overconfident and optimistic, kind of like we are as fans. I mean, to be a fan of the Jets, you have to be kind of oblivious and overconfident and optimistic, in the offseason. But I think for players, I mean, it would be hard to go out there and just recognize how bad you suck. So,
yeah, I think you just got to have the confidence that no matter how well you're playing, that you got to really believe that you can go out there and still be the best player in the field every game. I mean, they all like all these cliches that they put out in press conferences and everything. I really think they're cliches for a reason, and these players do have to live by it. Like, don't get too high, don't get too low, because if you're playing good and you get satisfied with your amazing numbers, then that's when you get complacent and then you fall down. And if you're bad and you're reading me posting stats about how many pressures you give up,
I do wonder how many players
lose your confidence.
I do wonder how many players have been affected by you, Michael. I will say I didn't really fully grasp it. I mean, I like obviously you hear about like, oh, being a quarterback in New York is so hard, and you like kind of heard that cliche. I will say it's like, maybe I'm just in a bit of a Jets bubble, but I see this a lot from the national media. I don't see anything about like Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields. I mean, Mac Jones, I see some stuff, but that's just because like he's like Brady's replacement or whatever. Trey Lance. I mean, like it really, I do kind of feel for New York quarterbacks like Zach Wilson or like even Darnold. It just seems like he's able to kind of like live life and play a game because it's just game by game. It's just brutal with the questions you get asked in the media and the 7 different outlets, releasing articles throughout the week about how you need to be better. I mean, it is just a lot of pressure. I think the only way I could operate is if I truly did just go off the grid. Like, I don't think I'd have any social media. I don't think I would ever check that would be the only way you could operate in New York. And then the only reality check I guess you'd have would be the fans who are booing you in your home opener. Like, it would just be tough. But I think the other players, that probably some awareness in there.
How many other teams do you think, if their quarterback had the same performance, the same exact situation, number 2 pick, home debut, how many other fan bases do you think would boo their quarterback for that performance?
Eagles.
Yeah, Eagles came to mind immediately.
Maybe I
feel like even the Giants wouldn't do that. I just don't feel like
I think if it was a controversial pick, maybe. Like if they didn't want the quarterback,
aggressive as the Jets with the booing, maybe they're just not as frustrated.
Okay, so if the Giants trade Daniel Jones and they're picking 2 and they take Sam Howell or Malik Willis or somebody like that, which might be kind of controversial among some Giants fans, I can see the Giants doing it. I think I saw something today about like which fan base is more passionate. It's Jets or Giants. It's far and away the Jets. It's not even close. Yes. I think the Giants probably have more fans, but I think they have a lot more bandwagon fair weather fans. And I would say they don't have diehard fans. They definitely do. But like if you just moved to New York and you're choosing a football team, you're choosing the Giants. Like the Jets fans are the ones that have been like, you don't choose to be a Jets fan. Like being a Jets fan chooses you. I mean, like it's not enjoyable at all.
Yeah, like Giants fans are Yankees fans and Knicks fans who the Giants are their football team. Jets fans are some like, yeah, for sure. Like any Giants fan who's listening to this, I don't know why you are, but I'm sure there are plenty of diehard Giants fans for sure. But I think a higher portion of Jets fans have the Jets as their primary sports team compared to the Giants. I think.
Well, yeah, it's like also at this point, why would you still be a Jets fan if you didn't actually care about them?
Yeah.
Like exactly. If you're still a Jets fan after the last decade of mediocrity, I will say that the Giants haven't been much better since that Super Bowl. But I just think the Jets have a longer history of complete ineptitude. But I will say this. I'd rather be in the Jets position than the Giants position right now. And that's not even a bias thing. Sure. Like I know I just feel like the Jets are set up much better for success in the future. I'm not saying right now, maybe the Giants finish with a better record, but I'd rather be in the situation the Jets are in with Wilson and all these young picks and the future picks they have and Douglas and Saleh than what the Giants have going on, which isn't a complete train wreck, but I like the way the Jets are building compared to their crosstown rivals. All right, from @SunMoonRise31, suppose the Jets hire you as a consultant to fix the Jets offense. What would be the first 10 things you do? 10 change, do/change short, mid, or long term to get things going.
How about we both come up with 5?
We have to come up with 10. Okay, but let's come up with 10 together. Okay.
All right.
Okay, ready? What's this out? We're only offense, I guess. Okay. More touchdowns. I think that's number 1.
Yes. More yards.
More yards, more completions.
More first downs.
More first downs for sure. Definitely want more wins. I mean, let's just be honest about that.
More
I would
points.
say, okay, if we're going to be honest about our football acumen here. But look, I think we know a lot more than the average fan. The average coach definitely knows more than us. The average below average coach knows more than us. But I would say I would obviously use a lot more. I don't think we're going to come up with 10 here, Michael, but we could try. I think you need to get the quick game going for Zach Wilson. I think especially early on. And I think Vitor Paiva from Jets X Factor does some of the best film review stuff. You should make sure to check him out. He's done and we kind of alluded to this earlier, where it's like, I think LaFleur has shown some great potential in the sense that I think he's had some plays that he's drawn up or schemed up or have opened up in the second half that have really been there. And either the Jets have gotten them, like the Titans game, or they've missed them, like the deep bomb to Corey Davis that Zach Wilson missed in this game, or whatever. Execution has been lacking on some of these plays, or even the play that he got a lot of hate for, which was the throwback to, I think it was Carter, and then AVT blew that block. If you look at the coach's film, I mean, they have like a 4-on-1 block there. I mean, that could have been a touchdown. So LaFleur has done some good things. It's just been starting for him. And I think he comes out of the gates trying to attack what the defense isn't good at, rather than establishing what Zach Wilson, the Jets offense, is good at. So it's like, and you have, obviously, I think you're going to raise this point next, but there's, I'll go ahead and I'm assuming you're going to talk about rushing because there's some stuff I want to build off of, but I want to take your points. You were going to talk about how the Jets run the ball in the first quarter.
Yeah. And I think that they do kind of rely on the run a little bit too much early in the game. I get that they want to establish the run, help out the rookie quarterback and everything, but it's like I talked about earlier with the 12 personnel. I'm not necessarily.
What was the number you had though? You had a number you told me.
Right. I'm building up to it. I'm building up to it.
I wanted to
have some suspense, some rising action before climax and falling action. Storytelling.
Okay, I wasn't done, but go ahead.
So, if I get that they're trying to establish it early for him, but I just don't think that they're good enough to be as run heavy as they are, because they have been running the ball on 71% of their first down plays in the first quarter, which is the highest rate in the league. So I think that number can come down and they can bounce it out a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the way you replace that, look, I think it's a case of being predictable. And we kind of joke, but Adam Gase really was good in the first drives. I mean, I think he had the most first drive offensive success that I've ever seen out of a Jets offense since I've been watching that I can recall. I mean, can you recall a Jets offense that consistently put points up on the first drive? After that, they sucked. And I think the adjustments is kind of a good sign for LaFleur. And also, it's like he is a first-time play caller here. This is not. I think people just kind of shrug that off, but he's learning too on the job, like Zach Wilson is. And I think the way you kind of scheme around that, it's like, okay, they're running the football to set things up earlier in the game. You want to open up the play action. You want to bring the safeties into the box. I get you want to establish the run, but it's like, if you can open up the RPO game, the screen game, the quick game, play action, but I'm talking short passing. I think that's the biggest thing, because once Zach Wilson can complete those short passes, hell, even if the Jets go 3 and out, but Zach Wilson completes 2 passes for 7 yards, whatever, it's not a win by any stretch, but it's a lot better than what they've been doing, which is essentially run, maybe 3-yard pass, honestly, run, incomplete pass, and then 3rd and long incomplete pass is what's been happening. If they can establish any sort of rhythm there, I think those short passes is going to be Zach Wilson's best friend, because it's going to get him in a rhythm. He's going to complete those short, easy throws. It is still accomplishing, in a sense, what you're trying to do, which is play the short game, and then you can run the football. But I don't think the Jets should come out of the gates trying to run the football as aggressively as they have been. I think you want to build the pass off the run, but the way that they're starting games, maybe you should try to build the run off the pass, if that makes any sense. Is there anything else?
Well, we got to get to 10.
Oh, okay. So was that 1?
All right. Let's shorten them. So more quick passing.
Okay.
More passing on first down in the first quarter.
Okay.
More 11 personnel. More Denzel Mims.
I'll compile this into one. Mims and Moore have very specific certain skill sets. I think Moore is more well-rounded, and you can use him in an every down. I think Denzel Mims can be more well-rounded, but They both have specific skill sets that they need plays designed for. I mean, you need plays where the primary option is Denzel Mims, or even the package, like situations where when the Jets are in the red zone, Denzel Mims should be on the field. There's a no-brainer to me. It's like when the Jets are in the red zone, put Denzel Mims in the field, put Corey Davis at the Z, and then you have Crowder or Moore in the slot or whatever, or just give him those reps in the red zone, because it's like, okay. And look, he seems to be building up a package of plays a little bit. He had a big gainer against the Falcons, but the red zone to me, it's like, I'm in the red zone, I play Denzel Mims. So that's one. And the other one is I'm getting Elijah Moore involved. I'm designing plays for Elijah Moore, and those trick plays, the plays that they're using Brett Berrios in right now. And I guess Moore got a concussion, so maybe that's why they're using it. But like, look at how the Cardinals are using Rondale Moore. I mean, the Cardinals currently have DeAndre Hopkins, AJ Green, Christian Kirk. They just traded for Travis Kelce, but they are getting Rondale Moore involved by just getting him a package of plays. I mean, Moore is such a specific skill set. He's getting open like crazy. They got to get, like they're trying to get Zach Wilson in a rhythm, they got to get more in a rhythm. I would give him a lot of those jet touch passes, those screens, short passes, drags, flats. Feed him, get him 3-4 balls in the first half. Get him going. So that's another one. Is there anything else we think of?
So how many do we have? Quick passing.
Let's say we have 5, 6. Let's give it 6. I don't know. The first one was kind of a long one. Got 4 more. Give me 4 more, Michael. Can we do 4?
Trade. All right. Trade for a right guard. Trade for Lawrence Duvernay Tardif. I guess it's not really a change. We're a
consultant. This is like,
so we don't get to talk to Joe Douglas.
Yeah.
Okay. That doesn't count.
It's Bower paper.
I'm kind of running out of block better.
No. Okay. How do you balance? This is kind of something I've been thinking about. How do you balance the getting Zach Wilson in rhythm with the quick passing versus just like letting him air it out? Because in the Titans game, once they kind of it was kind of like the Patriots game where they.
Well, I don't know if they let him air it out in that game. The 2 big plays were Davis and Cole. Those were both improvised plays. So I feel like a big part of his deep game is just self-created, and it's giving him the freedom to do that.
Okay, so get him out of the pocket more. Absolutely. I think that has to be one, right?
I don't know, because one thing I think they should actually, I guess we can add this to the list, is I think they should do less play action, because right now he is one of the least effective play action quarterbacks in the league. And I think something can be said about that in terms of being a young quarterback. When you have to do a play action fake, you lose, maybe close to a full second of time to read the defense post snap. And I think that is definitely hurting him right now. And his accuracy on a lot of those throws on the run rolling out has not been good. We've seen a lot of throws that he's missed in that respect. So I would actually say run less play action and let the on the move stuff for him comes better when he's improvising. I think the drawn up rollouts for him are a problem right now. So I would say less play action.
I would say this is a tough one. I don't know if I would. I was going to say use him more as a runner. Use his athleticism a little bit more. But, honestly, we don't need – last thing we need is a Zach Wilson injury, so maybe scratch that from the record. But I would use him a little bit more in those read option play. Not read option. Read option
in the red zone. I think
it
should be an option, like the 2-point they did against Carolina.
They
just don't get there, so we haven't seen it.
Athletically, I think – I think of like Ryan Tannehill in this offense. He always kills the Jets with those like little sneaky.
Yeah.
It's a third down.
That play against when he's with Miami in that 2018 opener.
Yeah, exactly.
He had like a wide open 30-yard run.
Well, he needs to use his legs more. I do think that. I mean,
yes, that's a good one. There are a lot of plays where he should scramble, and which is good sometimes. It's good that he wants to throw the ball because it's much better than scrambling in general. You get more yards out of it. But there are some plays where scrambling is the right call, and he has missed those.
He is an athlete. I mean, the fact that DJ Bieniemy is implying that Daniel Jones is a better athlete on his Twitter. I mean, like Zach Wilson could correct the record on that very quickly. I don't think there's much.
Jones is probably faster straight line. Wilson's a better athlete.
But it takes him a while to build up to that. Jones is not a quick burst, quick twitch, juke. I mean, like he's not the same athlete. Vertical, like any measure. And I don't know if he's outright faster. I think it'd be pretty close. Long speed,
I'm
maybe
40 times. Jones has 481. What was Wilson?
Wilson didn't run one. I don't think.
No,
somebody rumored to have him at 4.6 or something. But either way, you can just see it in the game speed. Jones kind of can hit the long stride, but it takes him 10, 15 yards to get there. I don't know. I don't really think there's anything the Jets offense should be doing there though to encourage those runs. I kind of think for the most part they're there. But Wilson himself should be doing that. Or is there any other ones? Any other things you can think of? I mean, I think we said it all in our. Oh, I got it. Stop using Ty Johnson as a third down back.
Yeah, there we go.
I think that doesn't make any sense. Like if you're trying to get, I like Ty Johnson and I would definitely use him, but it's like I don't see him as a third down back. I think the problem is I think Michael Carter is starting to take his reps and they're still trying to give Carter a rest, so they're using Ty Johnson in the role that I thought they would use Michael Carter in. But it's like give Ty Johnson some reps on maybe the short downs, the short yardage third downs or the first and second downs, but it should mostly be going to Michael Carter. If you're trying to have the running back, you can use Tevin Coleman on third downs, and then Ty Johnson can sub Carter when you want. But the Ty Johnson on third down experiment, I don't like at all.
Yeah, I agree. So I don't know if that was 10, but I feel like we have a good list there.
I feel like I'm gonna keep thinking of these. These are gonna randomly pop into my head as we keep moving on. Okay, we'll move on though. If another one pops in, we'll feel free to mention it though, Michael. For Matt Rise Up Economics, when Becton is back, what about moving Fant to right guard? He seems to have the athleticism needed and would be an upgrade over Van Roten without having to trade a pick. No, and no. Next one at Jetsman. No. I've seen this sentiment, not really as much with Fant, I've seen it more with Becton and Moses. Like we talked about it with Moses. Can you just explain a little bit why Fant at right guard wouldn't work and why it would be a bad idea?
For me, I really think Fan is not a good fit at guard because I feel like power is the whole weakness of his game, and there needs to be a requisite level of power to play in the interior when you're mostly going up against 300-pound D tackles instead of DNs. Because what Fant's doing really well right now is handling those speed rushers in the outside, and that's where his athleticism comes in, just dropping into his set and shutting down speed rushers, running them up the arc. And that's an ability that doesn't really translate to guard. And his run blocking hasn't been good, even at left tackle against lighter guys in the edge. So on the inside, and what he struggles with in pass protection historically has been bull rushes, inside moves, stuff like that. So which he's going to see more of at guard. So I feel like his skill set is, definitely much better fit for tackle than it is for guard.
Well, also it's just not as realistic. There aren't many guys in the NFL that you ever will see switch from tackle to guard. And also it's like Fan is a guy who went from basketball to like swing tackle, left tackle, right tackle, back to left tackle, back to right tackle. Now he's left tackle. This is a guy that is just, can we give him a break? Like, I don't think he makes any sense. Becton, we've kind of talked about, I don't think there's a single 6'7" guard, like you said. That wouldn't really work at all. I think, the only position change I could see Becton ever having is if he was ever going to move positions, it would be to right tackle. That was the one thing in the pre-draft process where some people were like, maybe he's more of a right tackle because he's, weaker in the pass protection. That's something that would maybe happen after next season. That would be something where it's like, I think the Jets will, first of all, I think if you have a young stud tackle and he's playing left tackle, you keep him there. It's a more valuable position. You keep him as Zach's blind side. Presumably he'd be getting better every year. But if at the end of next year, and maybe you have some other tackle prospect that's more comfortable there, whatever, maybe Becton moves over to the right tackle. But outside of that, Becton is a left tackle. He's not a guard. Moses is the one guy I thought that maybe they could plug in a guard during training camp because his profile kind of fit the right guard kind of in this offense. But at this point, I don't think anybody's moving around. I think the only way they're getting an in-season upgrade over Van Roten is somebody they claim on waivers or somebody they trade for. Other than that, Van Roten is starting. Maybe Cameron Clark comes back and subs him out. How amazing would that be if Cam Clark comes back and he's like a legit offensive lineman for us?
That'd be awesome.
Extremely unlikely. All right. At Jets Midwest, what is more detrimental to a young QB's future? Taking too many hits/sacks, or throwing too many interceptions? Thanks. I'll hang up and listen. Michael?
That's a really good question. I feel like that is really tough. I think the hits and sacks, and I think in general, the narratives about how many sacks a quarterback takes, how many hits compared to their health is a little overblown, just in the sense that I think the hits are going to come no matter what. So obviously getting hit less is good, but I think every quarterback is going to be subjected to potential injury. They're all going to take big hits. So I think in that sense, it's not necessarily as big of a deal, but This is a really hard one. I think both are really tough.
No, it's not.
And
No, it's not. I
but
got it.
to me it is.
No,
To me it
not
is.
at all.
But
Ready? You
I
want to
think
hear
it's
why?
pretty
You want to
balanced.
hear why?
I'm very interested to hear yours.
I've got
your
it.
take.
It's clearly throwing too many interceptions because mentally,
Really?
if you're getting hit and taking too many sacks, at least there's somebody to blame. It's the offensive line's fault. You know what I mean? Like, look, there may be some cases where you're holding the ball too much. And yes, like you look at Joe Burrow's rookie year, maybe you're taking a hit, maybe you're getting a little giddy in the pocket or whatever. But if you're out there just throwing interception after interception, there's a mental block there of one, it's on me for the most part, and nobody else. And there's a question of, oh, can I do this? I'm not seeing the field well. This is way harder than the NFL. This is way harder than college ball. If you're just getting hit too much and you're taking too many sacks, but you're still seeing the field well, and when you do have time to create things, you're still playing well. It's like, okay, the thought process for the fans and you is like, okay, if I can get more time or if I can get more comfortable in the pocket, we can make this thing work. But if you're throwing too many interceptions, and I guess the flip side is like you have a clean pocket and you're throwing too many interceptions, that is a much bigger red flag to me. And I think mentally for a quarterback, that's a little harder to overcome. So that's why I would say I'd rather have my quarterback taking too many hits and sacks than throwing too many interceptions.
I was kind of thinking, after thinking about it a little bit more, that I think the hits and sacks actually might be the worst one of these two, just in the sense that I think, like we saw with Darnold and like we've seen a little bit with Wilson earlier this season, is just, I think, the pressure can kind of lead to bad habits and being rattled and rushing the ball out, feeling like you've less time than you do. I think that can really have an effect on your overall game and processing speed. Both are really bad, but I don't know. I think your take is definitely good as well.
I just think those 5 interception games are a lot more detrimental to a quarterback's confidence than those 8 sack games are, because at the very least, some of those aren't on you.
Some of the interceptions aren't on you as well.
Yeah, but there's a higher percentage of sacks that aren't on you than interceptions that aren't on you. Most interceptions are avoidable.
I think it's less about sacks, more just about overall pressure, feeling how much time you have. Let's try to not have both of them, though.
Yeah. I would say, which one do you think Zach is struggling with too much right now, or more right now?
I feel like he's done better in terms of the sacks the last couple of weeks. There's a good throwaway against the Falcons he had. There is such a thing as good throwaways. Aaron Rodgers is great at it. There's a really good escape he had against the Titans where he got the ball out. I feel like he is showing some progress in that area. Only 3 sacks the last 2 games. Pass protection has been a lot better, but sacks are very much a quarterback thing. Most of them are avoidable. Like Russell Wilson and Ryan Tannehill take a lot of sacks every single season just because that's kind of their play style. And I think Wilson's doing a better job right now of not taking them. So I think he is improving there. Whereas the interceptions, I think we've seen him throw a legitimate interception every single game.
Which quarterback has their play style as throwing a lot of interceptions that you would still consider a good quarterback? Because you can name Russell Wilson as a quarterback who takes a lot of sacks, but still an elite quarterback.
Brett Favre.
That was the one that I was kind of thinking of, but even then, I don't know if I would even say he throws he throws interceptions. I guess Brett Favre is like the one answer to that, is what I would say. Because in my head, I was like, okay, Jameis Winston, you knock out the interceptions, you have a pretty solid quarterback. But it's like those interceptions are much more detrimental than the sacks are, because they get the ball right where you are, whereas the sack, it's like, okay, now we got to punt. I don't know. I think interceptions mentally is just a lot harder. I'll put it this way. If Zach took 10 sacks against New England, I think he'd be significantly less scarred than what happened, even if the physical toll was a little less.
All right. I guess I was looking at it more like what's more detrimental is like the offensive line struggling versus him throwing interceptions, not necessarily just sacks. Because I feel like we saw Darnold, like
it says what is more detrimental to a young QB's future.
So, all right, if we're talking about hits and sacks versus interceptions, definitely
interceptions. What's going to mess with a young quarterback's head more? Or like what is more of a telltale sign they're going to suck? Maybe not that second part. Maybe not as true. I think what's more detrimental to a young QB's future, I interpret that as which one of these would you rather not have happening, because it's like it's going to mess their mental up. And
okay.
I think the interceptions.
I think we looked at the question differently then, because like
obviously I looked at it right and you looked at it wrong.
Oh, okay. I guess we have to ask Tommy Jets what he meant then, because I'm looking at it as which hurts his development more in terms of him throwing interceptions or him having to face pressure and play behind a bad offensive line. That's kind of how I read it. But in terms of how you're looking at it, in terms of which would I rather him struggle with, obviously sacks instead of interceptions.
Okay, well, we'll just call it a draw then. All right, at New York Sports Guru 2, projected record for the rest of the season. Jets haven't lived up to expectations so far this season. Improvement is possible, but want your guys' opinion on what our record ends up being for the rest of the season, along with any other predictions or ideas for the rest of the Jets season. Michael and I kind of ran through this exercise before we started recording.
Yeah.
Based off what we see in the first 5 weeks, and I will say, I do actually think the Jets got significantly better over the course of the season, but we kind of have a good idea of what they are. How are they going to play? Because I think, and I will say, I think most of us didn't actually think the Jets were going to have a hot start. I thought they were going to beat the Panthers, then lose 3 straight, and then beat the Falcons. So I had the Jets at 2-3 at this point, which they very easily could have been at. And they're at 1-4. So I don't know what you had them at as, Michael, but they're not actually too far away. But I will say I didn't anticipate them looking that bad against the Patriots and the Broncos. Well, actually, I didn't anticipate Zach struggling as much with the easy stuff. Them looking as bad against the Panthers and Falcons, and then kind of making them close one-score games. But the first 3 quarters are pretty ugly. First half, I guess. The Broncos game was a complete shit show, but they beat the Titans, which is probably the one game on here at the beginning of the season that I thought was the hardest out of the 5 of them. So I don't really know. It just goes to show you that the April schedule predictions mean nothing. Because at that time, it was like, all right, Julio Jones, A.J. Brown, Derrick Henry, that's the loss. Because you look at, Panthers, Patriots, Broncos, Titans, Falcons. The Titans are the best team in there from the preseason. But now at this point, I guess you'd say the Panthers are the best team? I don't know.
I think Denver is better.
Oh, yeah, that's true, Denver. Well, Denver definitely played the Jets the best. All right. You want to go through this? I think we for the most part agreed. I think you and I both have them at 6, but this Patriots game is going to tell us a lot because I thought the Falcons game told us a lot. I thought the Falcons game was really going to be a big sign about the type of team the Jets are, and I think it kind of did, which was okay. They're not ready yet, which we kind of already knew, but it was like how much is the culture change because it was like the Jets of old would after a long and like you can't discount this. It's like they just played a long, grueling, physically and emotionally exhausting game that literally went 5 quarters. They win the upset. It's a big triumph.
The defense
for them.
played 100 plays.
Defense plays 100 plays. They got to go fly to London and play a good veteran quarterback and a scrappy team, like starving for a win. I thought it was like, okay, if they are the Jets of new, they're going to come in there, use that Titans game as a springboard, blow the Falcons out of the water. Clearly, they're not the Jets of new just yet. They did make it close, but they came out on that game, and particularly the defense was the most disappointing part of that game. The offense sucked, obviously. No, I shouldn't say obviously. But the offense wasn't bad, but the defense got picked apart that game. And I'm worried because he just put that on film for Bill Belichick this next week, who will clearly see that and attack with it. I thought the Jets, the one thing they've done in all their games this year outside of maybe the Broncos game, is they made the adjustments. I think they came out a lot better in the second half against the Falcons offense, did a much better job, but they still couldn't get off the field on third down. And the Jets offense has been struggling with pretty much the same things all year. Slow starts, can't do the easy stuff right, can't execute when the explosive plays are there. But, that told us a lot about them. But this Patriots game, Michael, might tell us even more. They've got the bye. It's coming at a good time. Are you willing to stand by what you told me before the show? Are you willing to put that out there, what you told me before the show about this Jets-Patriots game?
What did I put out there? Oh, that they were going to win?
You said the Jets going to beat the Patriots.
I from a schedule prediction standpoint,
he's not backing it up
because I like to predict the schedule in a different way than individual games. Because I just looking at the schedule overall, I do think they are a 6-win team, and I feel like they're going to steal some games that they shouldn't to get there. Like you said, the Titans game, which didn't look like a win before the season, and I don't know. They played the Patriots really well the first game. Wilson just really struggled. So I'm gonna back it up. I'm gonna say they win. There we go.
I'm close on it, but every time I've done that this season on this podcast, they've ended up losing. So I'm gonna say they lose that game. But
I'm probably gonna change it by the time of our preview podcast.
I would love for Zach to come out and get his revenge and put together a night. Because every other time, I shouldn't say every other time, when Sam Darnold had his see and go game against the Patriots, we didn't really, first of all, in that 2019 game, that was the second game. So we didn't get another time to see him that season. And then last year, he didn't play the first one, but then it was until the end of the season that they played the Patriots. This is the first time in a long time that we've gotten 2 Jets-Patriots games still in the thick of the season. And I think, Zach Wilson gets a chance to rebound only 3 games later. It's a good litmus test for him to see how he does. I mean, I'll tell you one thing. The Patriots are going to come out of that game with a lot of too high shells, do exactly what the Falcons did, and do exactly what the Patriots did, which is eliminate all the deep stuff. Zach, do the little stuff right. Get the short passes, the small windows, the easy completions, and then maybe we'll come at you, and then you'll have the big plays. But if Zach comes out there trying to play hero ball like it's his revenge game, they're not going to win that game. And I kind of feel like that's what's going to happen. I think he's going to play better. I don't think they win it though.
I'm going to change it. I don't think they win.
But look, like you said, the team played terrific, and if Zach just doesn't turn the ball over, and they get a bye week, they have 2 weeks to prepare for him. Maybe LaFleur doesn't. I don't hate the matchup. I think it's going to be a closer game. But every time I've said I think they're going to do it, they never do it. So I'm not going to do it. But I don't hate the pick. To speed this up, let's just look at this in quadrants. They got 12 games left, right? Did I do that math right? Yeah, they got 12 games left. Let's look at it in 4s. They got Patriots, Bengals, Colts, Bills. Colts on a short week. 2 home games, 2 road games. Michael, what do you think? I think they win one of the 3. One of the 4, I mean. I think it's either the Colts or the Bengals they win. I think they lose the Patriots and Bills. I kind of like their chances at home against Cincinnati. I know Cincinnati's been good, but I just like them at home against Cincinnati.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're going to get one of that next 4.
And if they don't get the Cincinnati one, I also think the Colts, it is a short week and they're on the road, but I think the Colts are the worst team out of those 4. But hey, the Colts still almost just, beat the Ravens on prime time. So who knows, but I think they get one of those. I think they beat the Bengals, but hey, if you were not a Jets fan and you're looking at the schedule, I think you have the Jets losing the next 5 games because the next 4 go Dolphins, which most people would probably give to the Dolphins. But then you got Dolphins, Texans, Eagles, Saints, which is by far and away the Jets' easiest stretch of the schedule.
Which does extend into the next portion as well. I think that 6-game stretch is going to be that shot.
I think.
So how about we look at that? How about we look at the 6-game run from week 11 to 15?
Okay, so the 6 games.
Or 16.
We have the Jets winning 1 game from the Patriots, Bengals, Colts, Bills. 6 games. They got home against the Dolphins, away for Texans, home against the Eagles, home against the Saints, away against the Dolphins, home against the Jaguars. I think the Jets win 4 out of the 6. I think they beat the Dolphins at home, beat the Texans, beat the Eagles, and beat the Jaguars at home, lose the Dolphins on the road, and lose the Saints at home.
Yeah, I agree. I think they'll get 4 out of the 6 here.
So if they're at 1, let me do the math real quick. And then the last 2, Bucks and Bills, I think they lose both of those. But maybe the rest of their starters, maybe they catch a break there. We are officially playing January football because both those games are January 2nd and January 9th. So take that as a victory. So they're sitting at 1 and 4. I think that comes out to 6 games. But okay, let's just do it by our math. So that's 1 and 5. 2 and 5, 2 and 6, 2 and 7, 3 and 7, 4 and 7, 5 and 7. That's the peak of the Jets season. They're 5 and 7 after the Eagles game. If they win out, they can make the playoffs. Once you hit that 8th loss, it's over. But you're still at 7. That's the peak.
Actually, this year 8 losses, you can still get a winning record.
That's true. But I think when they're 5 and 7 against the Eagles, that's the peak. And then you're like, they got the Saints, Dolphins, and Jags next. Maybe the Bucks and Bills are resting their starters. Here we go, playoff run. That's when they lose 2 straight against the Saints and Dolphins. They come back, win the Jaguars game. That gets them to 6 wins. And I think that's fair. I think they go 6 and 11. And we took a lot of time on that segment, so we'll move on. But unless you have another prediction. My other prediction, Seahawks miss the playoffs, but I don't think it's as high as a pick as some fans are hoping. I think they're going to be in that 17 to 20 range. And I think that's where the Jets pick is going to be. Any other predictions for the season before the last question?
Yeah, on the Seahawks, I agree in that. I think they'll get 7 or 8 wins. Other predictions for the season? I think Elijah Moore is going to average at least 50 yards a game over the next 12 games.
See, I don't think he gets going until that easy stretch. I don't think he really gets going until that. Maybe the Bills game.
It's gotta happen. It's gonna happen. Open. It's there. It's
maybe
been there.
Maybe the bye week opens it up for him a little bit. I could see him having a game against the Bengals. I think that stretch though, that Dolphins, Texans, Eagles, Saints, Dolphins, Jags stretch, that's going to be a lot of development for this team and a winning record. So I'm looking forward to that stretch of the season. All right. Last question. It's a bit of a fun one. At MYJ Mike, how many yards would Zach Wilson have to throw for you to consider playing in the Squid Games? I don't think we kind of made our own. Okay. That's a non-starter. Would I play in the Squid Games for the Jets to win a Super Bowl? That's a better question. Here's an even better question, Michael. Would you play in these New York Jets Squid Games, and how far do you think you could get? And if you win this, the Jets win the Super Bowl. Okay, so the first one, we'll try to mimic this, right? If you haven't seen the show, I won't spoil anything, so I'll just try to keep it. I'll try to match it up with the games, but okay. First one, I think you have to have have a scoring drive behind an offensive line of Wayne Hunter, Vlad Ducase, Wesley Johnson, Greg Van Roten, and Ryan Clady. Okay, just complete a pass. Adoga, that's true. Adoga. You just have to complete one pass. You have 4 downs. Complete one pass. If you can do that, you move on. After that, you have to cut the Jets logo out of that little sugar cookie. Next one, I think this is a very interesting one. You are going up against Mekhi Becton in tug of war. It is you, Mike White, and Robbie Anderson. Do you win? That one, I think I could win that one. That's 3-on-1.
I think you could. I don't think I would, honestly.
It's pretty close. 3-on-1 though. I don't know. That's an interesting. I'll put that on Twitter. I think I'd be curious to see the responses. All right, what other games are missing? Okay, next one. What do we choose for the marble one?
Win a game of chess against Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Oh yeah, or maybe solve a Rubik's Cube faster than Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Or against Adam Gase's son.
Or against Adam. Okay, to you, Adam Gase's son, and Ryan Fitzpatrick. Whoever
you just don't have to come in last place. How about that?
Yeah, exactly. You just don't have to come in last place. All right, next one. There's 2 more, right? Okay, next one is you have to get a 100-yard interception return like Darrelle Revis. A real one, though. Like, they're going to throw it to you, but you got to return this whole thing. But the field is going to explode behind you like The Dark Knight Rises. Hines Ward, right? Okay. And then last one is, what do you think? What do we saw for this one? I think we can do a little better.
You have to. Should we go with the one that we went with?
We talked about this briefly beforehand. I don't really remember what
the one that I came up with was you have to call an offensive drive, a game-winning offensive drive, touchdown drive in the 4th quarter with James Morgan as your quarterback against a Greg Williams defense.
Okay. Who's the rest of the offense?
It's the offense that they had for the last drive of the 3rd preseason game this year against the Jets starting 2019 defense.
Okay. All right, and if you do that, the Jets win a Super Bowl. I'm trying to think how far I would get in that. I think complete one pass, I could do that. That's just.
Can you throw a screen pass?
Yeah, that's one plat. That's just it. But like, you have the worst offensive line possible in front of you. I could do that. I could cut the Jets' updated oval out of that sugar cookie. I could do that. I think me, Mike White, and Robbie Anderson. It would be close. I think we could beat Mekhi Becton in a game of tug of war. That's kind of. I mean, it is 3-on-1 though. I was gonna almost use Amendola. No, that's two. I think it has to be kind of close. It's 3-on-1 though, and 2 professional.
Can we sub out Robbie Anderson?
We could put Matt Amendola instead of Mike White.
How about that? I think I like my odds better. He's built. I think he offers more than Robbie.
So you, Amendola, and Robbie Anderson versus Mekhi Becton. I was trying to think of Robbie's
replacing Robbie, and we're getting Mike White still.
Okay, Mike White, Amendola, and you versus Mekhi Becton. Okay.
Is it right now, or is it a healthy Mekhi Becton?
Healthy Mekhi Becton.
Okay.
I think I can get past that. I don't know if I could return it. I think most people die on the interception return.
Who are you covering and who's throwing the pass?
It doesn't matter. No, you're just gonna start you're gonna just get the intercept. Honestly, you could just be a kickoff return. Let's do a kickoff return. It's just basically, can you return with the field blown up behind you? Let's do return. You have to return a kick for a touchdown.
I mean, the way it happened in Dark Knight Rises, it It looked pretty easy. He was well ahead of where the explosion was happening.
It's more about the actual, you're going to have to outrun an entire special teams unit. I think most people, I mean, I consider myself fast by like normal people standards, but yeah, no chance. That one's, I think everybody loses on that one. If you somehow make it past that, I think a 99-yard scoring drive against Greg Williams is pretty difficult. I think I die on the kickoff return. Was that even the question, or did we just completely run? I don't even know. All right, that was fun. I enjoyed that. Well, Michael, this will be coming out over the weekend. I guess our next podcast will be let's try to schedule this for the people. When is our next podcast gonna be the preview podcast on Thursday? In normal times, we were supposed to have our regular podcast come out Monday after the game, and then the podcast comes out Thursday previewing the game. That is what the supposed schedule is supposed to be. We haven't been on that in a month, so this one's gonna come out on either we could wait till Sunday to upload this, not really time sensitive, or we could record it Friday night. What do you think, Michael? I think this probably comes out, and then we start with the preview pod on Thursday, and then we get back in the groove. Does that sound good?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to go forward.
That sounds good. Okay, that is, we'll see if we can hold to it. Yeah, I'll put it this way. If we don't have a podcast on Thursday, Jets are losing. Just going to put that out there. Podcast comes out Thursday, Jets are winning.
That's why they didn't win this last game.
Yeah, we're failing the team. If they start winning, we're doing weekly pod. I'll do one every day. I don't care. At CYJ Pod on Twitter, at Michael_Mania, at Ben W. Blessington on Twitter if you want to follow us. Find us at jetsxfactor.com. Best place to go for Jets content. Anything else, Michael?
I don't think so.
Okay. Thank you for that. That was helpful.
What is the point of asking? Like I don't know. Answer.
Yeah, you normally have some sort of quirky quip.
I want to come up with more Jets Squid Games. I really like that topic.
Okay. Keep coming up with Jet Squid Game topics. Tweet us your own Jet Squid Game topics. We appreciate you listening. Appreciate you sticking through it with us. You know, I know we haven't been too consistent, but we appreciate the support. Michael, have a good one. I'll talk to you Wednesday night.
I have a good Squid Game idea.
Of course, you're going to get me right as I was about to leave. Hit me.
So let's say you have to pass block. You have to play left tackle against. No. You are playing as an edge rusher against Mekhi Becton for a whole game. You have to touch the quarterback. Just touch him one time. I think
I could dive through his legs and touch the QB's leg. I think my speed and sprawling and hitting the floor is going to be faster than Mekhi, but he's probably just going to fall on me.
Or you have to touch his shoulders.
No. Hey,
above his waist. Above his waist.
No caveats.
Yeah.
The leg is still hard. He could just sit on you. and then if you miss, you're going to get a full 400 pounds on you. I think we've had this debate, but would you think it's harder to rush against Mekhi Becton or pass block Carl Lawson?
I think definitely block Carl Lawson.
Yeah, right. Well, I guess, yeah, the defense. Well,
I see you just run you over every single time. Becton, it's like you just one time.
Is it more likely you can hold Carl Lawson for 3 seconds at one time throughout you have an entire game to do that once, or that you get one touch on the quarterback against Mekhi Becton?
So I just have to hold him for 3 seconds one time. And what counts as holding him?
You can't actually hold. But
yeah. I mean, what counts as winning?
He doesn't touch the quarterback. And the quarterback's in the pocket. We're not calling like the time boots away from him.
Yeah. I think without getting helped by scheme or anything, I think it would be a lot harder to stop Lawson for the whole game. I think Becton.
Well, you just have to do it once.
Just one time, like sell up field, get him with a little inside move. Actually, this is a lot harder now than picturing it.
I think they're both impossible.
How I would be able to get around him.
I think they're both impossible. I think my chances are higher of
Lawson could trip once.
My chances are higher of just holding on to Lawson for dear life and hope he's tired. I have some technique, some clinch work. I've got some clinch work. I can just lock him up.
I don't know. I mean, I'm 145 pounds. I don't know if I'd be able to hang with Carl Lawson if he just bull rushes me.
All right, maybe you just try to make him tired every play. Just try to make him as exhausted as possible, or just hold him throughout the entire game. Get the penalties, but you still make him tired. Yeah, if you just play dirty, just try to knee him. I don't know. Let's get out of here, Michael. We've been on the phone for like damn near 5 hours. So we appreciate everybody listening. Have a great week. Go Jets.